Hi, I'm Andrea. Thanks for joining me for this 30-minute yoga practice. If you have a chair, sometimes that's a really nice thing to have in the mix for our practices together. We're not going to use it a whole lot, but there are a couple poses where I think this would be your best prop. A couple of blocks would be great. If you don't have them, thick books will do the trick. A folded blanket, maybe that's a folded beach towel or the throw blanket from your couch. If you don't have a yoga mat, just find a place that's carpeted and not too slippery. And if you prefer wearing shoes, no problem. It's also best likely if you position yourself so that you're facing me, then you can see what I'm up to. I will reposition myself so that you can see me best. And then we'll get started, as we so frequently do in our bedrock pose, mountain pose, feet hip distance. Turn your palms away from one another. Let that happen at the shoulder joint. Your chin is parallel to the ground as you gaze at our bright horizon. We drop into our breath. We drop into the earth, even as we extend the crown of our head like a mountain away from the earth. We stop. So that we can start. Appreciate the rise and the fall of your breath. We breathe all the time, usually with very little awareness around it. So dust it with awareness, and if you can, let your inhales and your exhales come through your nose. If you need to breathe through your mouth, it's not wrong. All of these are just things to move towards. We'll add some movement to this breath. Inhale, thumbs to the sky, a V shape overhead. Exhale, float your arms along your sides. Inhale, arms out and up. And then exhale, float your arms along your side. This time, bend your knees. Inhale, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. And then exhale, stand and float your arms along your side. Again, inhale, thumbs to the sky, V shape, no shrugging of shoulders into ears. And then exhale, stand. Palms turn out. Inhale, bending your knees. Exhale, straightening your legs. We're using this dynamic movement to warm up. Bend your knees. Thumbs to the sky, chair pose. Exhale, stand in your mountain. A few more like this. If your tempo is different than mine, celebrate it. Chair pose is the inhale. Standing into our mountain is our exhale. One more time, chair pose, thumbs to the sky. Stand it up and float the arms along your sides. Pause and gaze at your bright horizon. Step out wide onto your yoga mat. I'm going to actually move mine so that you can see me sideways a little bit better. And take your thumbs to the sky with your arms out to the side. Then step your legs about as wide as your arms. So you can think of roughly aligning your ankles underneath your wrists. And then turn your heels in and your toes out. It's a bit like you're aiming your toes towards those two long edge corners of your mat. Low belly lifts, and like our chair pose, we'll bend our knees for a moment. But now it's a wider stance, and there's a stretch in the inseams of our legs, you might have noticed. Straighten your legs and float your arms alongside you, palms face out. We'll do that again. Bend your knees, thumbs to the sky, arms out to the side. And then straighten your legs and float your arms alongside you, palms face out. One more time. Bend your knees, thumbs to the sky. Straighten your legs, float your arms along your side. A little bit different this time. Thumbs to the sky. Bend your right elbow. Pat yourself on the back with your right hand. Try to keep your knees bent. Of course, you're welcome to straighten them if it feels like too long a visit. Take your left hand and just see if you can maybe help your right elbow along a little bit. And then turn your left thumb down and take your left hand behind your back. So The back of your left hand is in the small of your back, and your right hand is patting you on the back. Doing two different things on two different sides of our body is brain food. So this is good in many ways. It's good for our shoulders to do different movement. It's good for our brains to handle two different things happening on two sides of us. 2 moments. Yes, I do know your knees are still bent. Slowly unwind your arms, thumbs to the sky, straighten your legs, float your arms alongside you. We'll go back in, thumbs to the sky, bend your knees. Now pat yourself on the back with your left hand. You might assist a little bit with your right hand, but we're not scrunching our shoulders into our ears as we do that. Then right thumb faces down. Back of the right hand on the small of your back. Try to keep the low belly lifted so this doesn't turn into a giant low back bend. It's tempting, I know. Feel the inner thighs stretch. See if you can keep your gaze at your bright horizon. 2 more moments here. Now slowly straighten your legs and release your arms, thumbs to the sky, out to the side, and then float them alongside you, palms face out, heel toe, hip distance with our feet. Inhale, arms out to the side, a V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and take your hands onto your thighs. We'll stay here with our hands tractioning our thighs, lengthening through our spine. And as you press into your thighs, imagine that you're making space between your thigh bones and your hip bones. Let there be a little bit of a sense of a back bend in the upper back. So we're not shrugging or rounding through our spine. This is just a little bit of an intermission between sides of that wide stance. Not to give away the surprise, but it is. And then firm through your belly and come upright. Thumbs to the sky, arms out to the side. Step wide. Sort of a rough measurement of ankles underneath wrists. Heels in and toes out. You're aiming your toes towards those 2 corners, long corners of your mat. And then bend your knees into our little plie action here. And this time, thumbs to the sky, reach out in front of you like you're going to give someone a hug. And then crisscross your right elbow on top of your left elbow, and the someone you're giving a hug is you. Now you can stay here, or turn your fingers towards the sky. This is a little bit sticky. A third option is to take your right elbow on top of your left hand, on the top of your left hand. So you can give yourself a hug with the right elbow on top. You can take your fingers to the sky, or you can do that sort of L shape with your arms. Stay with it. I know your legs are still bent. It's actually on purpose. 2 more moments. Unwind your arms, thumbs to the sky, and then slowly straighten your legs. Float your arms along your side, pause. Can you still see your bright horizon? Smile your collarbones. You're allowed to smile as well. You might not smile when you realize that there's a second side of that, but you will after. Thumbs to the sky, arms out to the side, bend your knees. Reach your arms out in front of you, thumbs keep facing up, and now it's a crisscross of the left elbow on top, and you give yourself a hug. Or you turn your fingers to the sky, or you create that L shape with your left elbow atop the top of your right hand, and that's your arm positioning. Now see if we can stay with it. Refine lifting the low belly. We're not making any tension happen in our shoulders, not in our neck, not in our throat. Now unwind your arms, thumbs to the sky, arms out to the side, and then slow motion, straighten your legs. Turn your toes to face forward as you float your arms down, palms face out. And then heel toe, so we're in that hip distance foundation that lets us move freely about the cabin. Come back to the front edge of your mat. This is where I'm going to suggest that most of us use the seat of our chair. You are able, if you'd like, to use your tall blocks, but this is a pretty challenging pose I've got in store for you next, and I want there to be a solid feeling of foundation. So come into your mountain. You want to make sure that your blocks are actually in front of you a bit. So it's going to be tricky for me to show you with both sets of props, but it's doable. So instead of where we situate our blocks for a lunge, I'd like your 2 blocks to be about a foot out in front of you if you decide that's what you're going to use. I think the seat of a chair, like I said, is probably a really good thought. Now bend in your knees, chair pose, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, hinge at your hips, take your hands to traction onto your thighs, and inhale, grow length like we did just a moment ago in the middle of our mat. Keep this length and keep lifting your low belly. Place your hands either on the seat of your chair, or you can bring your hands to your blocks, but I don't want anybody's head lower than their hips. So that gets tricky when you use your hands on your blocks. Just take that note, yeah? Now keep a bend in your right knee. Hands stay on the seat of your chair, maybe on your blocks, and begin to extend your left leg off the ground and back behind you, and again without letting your head get too low, without letting your spine round. And we just find some balance here on one leg. You could move that standing leg in the direction of being a little bit straighter, but mostly I want you to feel muscles rumbling and a little balance fun. And then send your breath to the equation for 3 here. The last one, step your left foot hip distance from your right. Bring your hands onto your thighs and inhale some length into your spine. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Chair pose, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Shift the weight towards your heels and then stand and float your arms along your side. Pause and just notice. One side is done, the other is not. We want to find some balance. There's power in balance. Chair pose, bend your knees, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and take your hands to your thighs. Inhale, really grow long and feel your low belly lift. Hands likely to the seat of your chair, possibly onto your blocks, but you're promising me that your head does not get lower than your hips if you're there. And then standing on to your left leg, begin to extend the right leg behind you. It's just balance fun. It feels like you're lifting your right leg from its inseam, so not like an arabesque, so much as just lifting it straight behind. Now you could move your standing leg, your left leg, in the direction of being straight, but we're not interested in locking that out. So I want you to feel the rumbling of your muscles working and to know that if it's too long, you can always step your right foot hip distance and come out of it before we do. Let's stay for just a few more moments exactly as we are. And then with your belly firm and with your awareness, right foot hip distance, hands to thighs. Inhale your heart forward. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Chair pose, bend your knees, thumbs to the sky. Stand, float your arms along your side, and really appreciate your mountain for a moment. Great. Inhale, thumbs to the sky, arms to the sky, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Bend your knees enough to place your hands on your thighs, and then inhale, traction, length into your spine. And from here, we're making our way to the floor. So you could use the seat of your chair, maybe your tall blocks, because we want to move mindfully, even when we make a transition, like from our standing poses to our poses on the floor. The other thing we want to be mindful around is what props we use. So you may well want to use your folded blanket underneath your knees because we're coming to our hands and knees here. So I like it to be like not too bunchy underneath my knees. That's just me. And then as we set things up, another mindfulness moment. Lift your low belly. Make sure your hands are not so close that you have too big a crease in your wrists and not so far that you're shrugging your shoulders into your ears. So we like to call it wrists underneath shoulders, and then push the ground away enough that we're not in a concave back. So low belly is lifting and there's oomph in our arms that's keeping us stable here. Think back in time to just moments ago when we did that standing balance, and then pretend like we're doing that, but on our hands and knees. So step your right foot back, and then lift your right leg and pause. Keep breathing. Now, play with coming onto your left fingertips, but I don't want you to collapse into your right shoulder. We're just finding balance here, sort of like our standing balance. And then maybe you take your arm out in front of you, thumb to the sky, and find balance here, but we're not collapsing into our right shoulder. We're not holding our breath. We're holding a pose, but not holding our breath. Stay with here for a few moments. Know that you can come out of it early, anytime. 2 more moments here. Now bring your left hand down if it's not, and bring your right knee down, and then come kneeling. And once you're kneeling, take the backs of your hands and press them together. Pause for a couple moments. It's like the bottom hand from when we did that plie combination earlier. And then hands and knees, carefully constructed so that shoulders are over wrists. Low belly lifts. Oomph as we push the ground away with our arms. Step your left foot back now and be on the ball of that back foot. Think about the balance that we did on the first side and also in our standing series. And then from here, come on to, actually first lift that left leg and consider coming onto your right fingertips, but do keep that awareness pressing into the ground with your left hand. This is plenty, it gives you a little balance fun. Maybe right arm reaches out in front of you, thumb to the sky, and then we breathe here. You do you. So stop with any of those variations along the way that worked best. And if this is too long a stay in the pose, either step it back to something that feels better or come out of it altogether. You could go to a child's pose. Last couple of moments here. Now gently, right hand down, left knee down, we come kneeling. This time we'll circle our wrists. Doesn't matter which direction. And then we'll turn our wrists the other way and take the backs of your hands together one more time. 2 more moments. Now move your blanket off to the side and come onto your belly. So onto our bellies we go. And once we're there, situate your forearms on the ground and see if you can align them so that they're parallel to the long edges of your mat. Here also, we want oomph in the arms so we're not collapsed. You want to really be cautious of that. Press the tops of your feet down onto your mat so much that your kneecaps are tempted to come off the ground, and maybe they actually do. And then traction your elbows towards you so it's like you're pulling your chest through the gateway of your arms. We're not looking for a radical back bend, but we want to think of decompressing our spine, smiling our collarbones, and keep your chin parallel to the ground here. You can nerd out a little bit on the rise and fall of your breath and how you feel that against the ground. Last couple moments here. Now lower it down and just bring your elbows in a little bit closer to you. Curl your toes under. Try to love me anyway as I ask you to peel your chest, your ribs, your hips, your thighs, maybe even your knees off the ground, and come into a forearm plank for a second. You can leave your knees down. This is some pretty major core work. You can do it. 2 moments. Return your knees if they're not. Thighs, hips, uncurl your toes. Back to our Sphinx pose for a moment. Press into the tops of your feet and lift your kneecaps. Try to resist the temptation to overdo it with your neck. One more time into plank on our forearms. So curl your toes under. Start to lift your belly, your hips, your thighs, possibly your knees off your mat. 3 moments here, getting stronger than we ever imagined. Standing into our power, standing parallel to the ground, as it were, knees down, thighs down, hips down. Unravel into that Sphinx. Remember, it's not a whiplash of our neck, and you want to press into the tops of your feet solidly. And then gently lower down and roll over onto your back. And once you're lying down on your back, bend your right knee into your chest and let your left leg feel like it's standing on something. So curl those toes back. You might hold the back of your right leg. You might interlace your hands around the shin. And just stay with it for a couple moments. This is a nice counter pose to the back bend that we just did. Also looks a little bit like a lunge that we did not so long ago. And then begin to straighten that right leg towards the sky. You could hold behind the hamstring. It doesn't matter if it ever gets straight. We're just experimenting. We're tinkering in our laboratory. And while we're here, can you try to situate your shoulder blades on the ground? Maybe you close your eyes so the experience is inward and it's not about creating a performance in any way. All for you, which is pretty empowering. Now, you'll start to bend your left knee and stamp your left foot onto the floor, and then cross right ankle on top of left thigh and let this be enough. Curl those right toes back so it's not a floppy ankle. Ask your shoulder blades to shimmy down against the ground as if they were doing that Sphinx pose again. So they're not winging out to the side. You can feel that they're an uplift to your chest. And then if you want to close your eyes again and meditate here, great. Now gently and slowly place your right foot down, and then hug your left knee into your chest and straighten your right leg out on the floor. You can hold the hamstring of that left leg, or it might feel fine to interlace around the shin. Just notice if suddenly there's a huge rounding of your back, and ask your shoulder blades to find that Sphinx pose just a little. Now hold the back of your left leg and think about it straightening out. It doesn't need to straighten all the way. I bet for most of us it doesn't. But we're on a journey. We're encouraging that left leg to open up a little bit and that right leg to curl toes back as if it were a standing leg. This is almost like us doing that standing balance pose that we did upside down, don't you think? And the knee into the chest version was almost like when we did it on our hands and knees. All these shapes have something in common, even though they are unique experiences unto themselves. Last few moments here, we're welcome to close your eyes while we're here. Take it in from the inside. And then last shape in our series of shapes here, begin to bend your right knee and stamp your right foot on the ground. Cross left ankle on top of right thigh. Curl your left toes back, and then let's shimmy one shoulder blade and then the other underneath us. And let this be enough. Drop in and let go. Now gently place that left foot onto the ground and walk your feet as wide as your mat. Scoot your hips to the right. Let your knees windshield wiper over to the left for an easy breezy twist. And come back through center and let the same thing happen to the other side. Scoot your hips to the left. Let your knees windshield wiper over to the right. Pause. And come down the middle. Knock your knees together. Shimmy your shoulder blades one more time underneath you. Lift your hips an inch. Make space as you gently lower your hips, and then either stay here or extend one leg at a time. And allow your feet to flop open. Close, maybe cover your eyes. Shavasana, final meditation. You're always welcome to stay here in our final Shavasana meditation as long as you'd like. If you're ready to find your way back, gently move your fingers and toes. Bend your knees and place your feet on the ground if they're not there now. And then roll carefully to either side. Take your time on the way out. Use your hands so that your head is the last thing to come up and there's nothing dizzying. We've been lying down for a pretty long time. Find any comfortable way to sit. Place your palms up or down. Just pause and feel the power of this practice and how powerful you are. I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for practicing with me. I look forward to us doing this again together soon.